Hey guys, welcome to Nico Play. This is another episode of Love, Money, Rock and Roll, and hastily through puddles, we reached the nightclub to drink to meet our keyboard player, the guy who attracted Nico so much that he even forgot about Catherine. He forgot about that Miss Queen, like the rock and roll queen. He forgot about Himitsu. He forgot about all his problems. So right now we're coming back to nightclub. So let's see what's gonna happen. Oh, hell yeah. My consciousness kicked in. I was sitting behind a table, densely covered my beer mugs, shots, and rocks glasses, drowning in clouds of cigarette smoke. Splendid. 17 years old, guys. Splendid. My thoughts were tumbling over each other, but my main goal had been achieved. I'd managed to calm down. Even if it was achieved this way, by drinking myself to unconsciousness. Some band was playing on the stage, but I wasn't in any condition to listen properly. The rhythmic drum of the speakers was more than enough. Suddenly, an unfamiliar guy sat at my table and started to speak quickly. Although it was more like he was opening and closing his mouth like a fish in the water. Huh? What? I can hear. I moved closer. Yeah, closer. I'm saying it's nice to see a European here. He said in English. I didn't even notice right away that he wasn't Japanese. Yeah. Where are you from? I live nearby. No, I mean from what country? USSR. I replied after a pause. My perception of reality was significantly clouded by alcohol, but I still didn't count on Kobayashi Corporation, the KGB suddenly leaving me alone. And he said where he was from, but I couldn't hear and decided not to ask again. Ed! The guy stretched his hand out to me. Ed what? My name's Ed. What's yours? Nick. I shook his hand. You come here often? Sometimes. I guess he was slightly over 20, but in all, Ed possessed an absolutely forgettable appearance. Were I to be interrogated the next day, I wouldn't be able to name any characteristics. No long hair, no big nose, no scars or birthmarks. You could say it was a very fitting appearance for a spy, or an intelligence officer, depending on your perspective. I'm here on tour with my favorite band. He shouted the name so loudly that even overpowered the buzzing of the guitars, but I still could make it out. They're headlining today. Yeah. He seemed to be just a regular music fan rather than a spy. I downed the shot of whiskey courteously offered by Ed, then another one, and the guy quickly began to seem like a wonderful person. Let me make that... Yeah, last time, actually, when we were playing, I forgot to make that very, drunk voice, so let me try to make the very drunk voice. Listen, Ed... I was tripping over my tongue, but a drunk always understands another drunk. They're on the same page, so to say. Do you have someone? I mean, a girl? Or guy, maybe? Yeah, my wife is waiting for me at home. Wife? So serious? I see. You? And me. I sighed and downed half a glass of beer in one go. Hell knows what's going on in my life. I may even have two. Well, I mean, not two wives. Like, two girls. And I don't know who to choose. What does your heart tell you? Heart? Is it ever that easy? It only works in books. Stupid books. Okay, let's try the different approach. Which of them seems to be the lesser evil? What do you mean? I asked, startled. I turned out to be less drunk than me after all. Well, which choice would make you lose less? Which choice would harm others less? Well, if you put it this way, Catherine. can live without me for sure. She's doing alright for the last year and a half. But Himitsu... well, I wouldn't say she off herself, but who knows though. Is it that serious? He asked compassionately. No, it's just in the context of the discussion, you know. From what you said, it seems like this Himitsu is just dependent on you. Dependent? No way. We're not like... It's a term in psychology. You, on the other hand, are dependent on Catherine. I'm not dependent on anyone. I felt resentment growing inside of me. I'm just trying to help, bro. Dog, cool down, yo. Better get another round. And what does your psychologist suggest to do in my case? I asked after giving his words a bit of thought. Getting rid of dependency. That's it. Getting rid of everyone. By getting rid of dependency, you mean the way you usually do it in Hollywood films? Think I should shoot Catherine? I laughed loudly. But then Himitsu would have to shoot me. In reality, there was nothing funny about that, especially in my situation, especially considering that I could actually catch a bullet at any moment. There are easy ways. There are much easier ways. For example, visiting a psychologist. A psychologist? Are you serious? I'm going to tell him that Catherine's mother was involved in my parents' death and I'm haunted by the most powerful corporation in Japan, but I can't think about anything but love. Simultaneously feeling guilty about my childhood friend who has also built a dependency on me? No, I couldn't say that. It might be a good idea though, they'd send me to the madhouse right off. I'd definitely be safe there. You're taking it too close to heart, making a tree out of molehill. What? No, Ed, I think you shit-faced. His mistake entertained me a lot and distracted me from my dark thoughts. Well, I'm still doing better than you. I guess so, you're older, although I'm trying to become worthy ultra-marathoner. Not bad, but be careful with that, otherwise you might never reach the finish line. We all reach the finish line one way or another, just the distance is different for everyone. Suddenly the crowd grew silent and after some time an intro from a famous song came out from the speaker. Oh, here they are! Oh, here they are, let's go to the stage! I didn't know this band, which made me even more surprised to see them at such a mediocre club. The furious energy of the music and the roaring crowd soon washed over me and made me forget about my problems. ... When the performance was over, I even sobered up a bit, but Ed approached me immediately with a couple of beer cans in his hand. Here, try this. It's a brand one. We brought some with us. I took a few gulps and then I was just enough. The concert hall started to blur before my eyes. You know, Ed, you're a cool guy. Really cool. Pity there are no such guys here. Like, let's go to your wife. Tell her that you wanted to be alone with me. You know, we can maybe... You can lay down. I can go down behind you. I have lube. Pity there's no such guys. If you want, we can continue at my place an after party, so to say. I'd like to, but I still need to help the band load their equipment. Then I help as well. I tried to stand up, but instead fell to the floor. I immediately burst out laughing. I thought maybe he's vomiting. Whoops! I seem to be having trouble navigating. The next words Ed said to be seen to sound from somewhere far away, like the yell of captain of a ship passing by in the fog. Sit here for a bit, we'll drive you home. I will... Why not? I barely managed to climb on the chair and started to look for booze. Oh, here we go. That's a very nice picture. Very nice picture, splendid picture. And of course I found it soon. That's a nice photo. That's a fucking nice photo. Completely broed out. Completely. 17. He said like couple weeks or something. It's still the same date? Are you fucking stupid? The author, do you track the timeline? People say you should love yourself. I guess it's not that simple obvious to everyone, but I'm confident everyone can hate themselves. The only requirement is to drink a life-threatening amount of something combustible. I woke up and lay in bed for some time, staring at the ceiling, struggling to understand who and where I was. I couldn't even recall how I got home yesterday, or to be more precise, this morning. My last memory was of the conversation with Ed. It seemed to be after midnight. What time was it when I woke up? The hour hand pointed straight at the Roman numeral 1, so it's 1 p.m. So I'd slept for almost 12 hours? Then why did I feel like shit? Although it was equally possible I gotten home way later than I thought. A headache and nausea wouldn't let me stay in bed. Oh, no, this is better. This is actually better. This is better. Oh, finally. But as soon as I stood up and the whole world shifted under my feet, forcing me to lay down again, I grazed my leg against the table, knocking a piece of paper out of it. Nico-kun, you can't drink like this. I found you in the hallway this morning and just barely dragged you to your bed. I'll drop by after school. I'm sure you won't be able to go anywhere, but even if you intend to, don't even think about it. It was written in Russian in Himitsu's beautiful, neat handwriting. For once, I completely agreed with her. Moreover, I was going to insist on reinstituting prohibition, to recover. The rehab. Half an hour in the bathroom somewhat brought me to my senses. Not really, though. I'd barely regained the ability to move more or less steadily, without every motion causing my head to ache. There were tsukimono on the table. Tsukimono are Japanese preserved vegetables, usually pickled in salt, brine, or a bed of rice bran. No pickle juice, sure, but anything I wouldn't immediately vomit back out was good for me, and I managed to eat them without much difficulty. I felt somewhat better after restoring the balance of electrolytes in my body, even if not for long. Well, now being sober, I realized that yesterday I had been drinking way more than that Ed guy. Excuse me. While he was nursing a single beer, I would finish a couple glasses of whiskey. Maybe a few shots of tequila on top of that. Why he's not drinking vodka, I don't understand. I was accelerating as if late for my train to hell. Yes, what an interesting guy. His words made me think about a number of things, but their true meaning was only coming through now. Of course, he didn't really say anything new, just described my condition in brief with a few accurate and hard-hitting statements. However, even that can be enough sometimes. The facts themselves don't change, but their interpretation does. Objective and subjective levels of existence, the struggle between perception and reality. The loud ring of the doorbell pierced my brain like lightning, my headache returning at once. Who the hell's there? I said quite loudly and opened the door. Catherine was standing on the doorstep. What a surprise. I was genuinely surprised. Is this a bad time? As you can see, it is. While in the bathroom, I had looked at myself in the mirror and harbored no doubt that my condition was self-evident. Not that Catherine was surprised in the first place. Looking at her, I recalled Ed's words about dependency. After all, the girl standing before me wasn't the same as 2 years ago, and she definitely wasn't the image from my dreams. Frankly speaking, I wasn't completely sure whether I loved this Catherine. Oh my god, how many misspellings, grammar mistakes, pronunciations, freaking... No wonder I cannot read certain words, because I was like, wait, there's something missing there. And I'm like pronouncing it wrong. Of course, guys, you're not happy, but fuck. At least whether I loved her as strongly as before. Didn't bring any gifts? The fuck? What gifts? I grinned, letting her pass to the kitchen. I wouldn't refuse a can of beer. I have something important to discuss. She ignored. I'm pregnant. She ignored my. Not by you, of course. She ignored my words and sat down with her legs crossed. I'm listening. She wouldn't have come to my place without a reason anyway. It was clear we were going to talk about something critical importance. I've talked to my mom about everything. About the phone call, you, your parents. She didn't want to explain anything for a while, but I insisted. To cut a long story short, you don't need to worry about anything anymore. So everything was fake. I knew it. It was fucking fake. Could you not cut the long story? As is, this doesn't sound very convincing, to be honest. She used to be indirectly related to your parents' work. You know, they worked on an important project, right? I noted. Even though I hadn't known about it until a couple of days ago. It turned out that things weren't going smoothly and... Catherine went silent, frowned, and looked away. Nick, I know it may come as a shock to you, but they were suspected of being Russian spies. What? My lips stretched into an idiotic smile. Even if that were the case, was that a reason to kill them? Now it was Catherine's turn to be surprised. Kill? No, it was an accident. It's just that some questions related to work have been raised recently. Mom told me all about it. And you believed her naturally? I sighed. Now I definitely needed some beer. Why shouldn't I believe her? Indeed, if I took only the facts into account, her mother's story matched up pretty well with Ichinose. Except that they had different narratives. He was blaming the corporation for everything that had happened, while Catherine's mother was trying to cover this accident up by making culprits out of Soviet engineers. You don't believe me, she said as a statement, not a question. I do, or to be more precise, I believe that you believe it. But I have no reason to believe your mother because... Was I supposed to tell her about my conversation with Ichinose? There was a little chance it would put her at risk, but still I didn't want to take the chance. Think for yourself, what would you do in my place? I don't know, but I'm sure my mom could never do anything like that. Like what? Strictly speaking, I never accused her mother of being personally involved in my parents' death. Was she involved indirectly? That was possible. Was she involved in the project? No doubt. But it was obvious that she hadn't been the one to issue the order. Anyway, I'm grateful that you came and told me everything. How couldn't I? Catherine asked, surprised. Oh, I'm sure you know enough ways. How couldn't? Do you still take me for the devil incarnate? I didn't know if it was the hangover or some veil of Katya's divinity had been lifted from my perception, but I felt much more comfortable around her. Most likely because she was just behaving normally, trying to maintain some minimal level of courtesy. I just don't have any reason to trust your mother, but I understand you and I don't blame you. Of course you don't. Or not. I agree that the situation is complicated, but if you think about it, my mother didn't say anything objectionable. Of course, if you want to pick apart the wording, yeah, I'm used to not doing that with you. I jabbed, but Catherine seemed to pay no attention to it. What does his parents have to do with all this? They're long dead. Why should we do this? If you're so interested in him, handle it by yourselves. You call it nothing objectionable? I am remembering her words correctly, right? They were connected through work somehow, I already told you. On the other hand, if I disregarded how I personally involved here, there was some logic to it. I could easily imagine a situation where Mrs. Winters had nothing to do with all this, but I absolutely did not want to believe that, and with good reason. Fine, I got you, I said dryly. Whatever the case, arguing with Catherine wouldn't be of any help to either of us. I'm glad. Not that she looked particularly satisfied. For a moment, I even had a thought that Katya was displeased by the fact that I was speaking to her so coldly with no mention of love till death do us part. Anything else? No, that's all. She stood up, smoothed out her skirt, cast an apprising glance over the kitchen and bid me farewell. Enjoy your hangover. Thank you, babe. After seeing her out, I felt proud of how much resilience I'd shown. Thank you, Ed. Still, it took me some time to fully digest our conversation. Ed, such a nice guy. He had such a big, strong... The clock read 4, but Himitsu still hadn't come. Logically, she should have rushed to my place right after school. I guess I even wanted that. That marathon yesterday managed to fulfill its objective. It blunted my sense of guilt, and I could look her in the eye with relative ease. Why not take the initiative then? A minute later, I was enthusiastically ringing the door bell of Himitsu's house. Damn, they look fancy. It's a 2-story house. Around the cheap apartments, the small cheap apartments. However, her father answered the door instead of her. Ryunosuke-san. Nikolai. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ryunosuke-san. Is Himitsu home? She went out to do some shopping. Okay, then I'll drop by later. It's fine, come in. You can wait here. She'll be back soon. Sorry to bother you. I use the standard Japanese form of politeness. Perhaps that wasn't my habit, but Ryusuke-san commanded respect by appearance alone. A tall, especially for Japanese, always serious and even somehow overly collected man, he didn't waste time on idle gossip, and I couldn't recall ever seeing him smile. How are you doing, Nikolai? Damn nice house. Himitsu's father asked at the same tone. I wondered if he noticed my obviously poor condition. I really hope he didn't. I'm doing alright, and you? He looked at me closely. Was it an appropriate question? I'm fine. I heard your mutual friend has returned to Japan. Catherine, right? Yes. Yes. Himitsu definitely shouldn't have told that to her father. Who needed that? I see. The awkward pause dragged on. Ryunosuke-san was just sitting on the sofa and keeping his eyes fixed on me, which was frankly making me feel uncomfortable. Finally, the front door opened and could hear steps coming from the hall. I'm home! Himitsu appeared in the living room with bags in her hands. Niko-kun! She exclaimed, but having noticed her father, caught herself. So glad you came. Wait, I won't be long. She rushed to the kitchen to unload the bags. I won't bother you. Ryunosuke-san bid his farewell. I nodded, trying not to be too courteous this time. When the door closed behind him, Himitsu virtually assaulted me. Niko-kun, why you deigned to explain what was this yesterday? That's what I'm here for. I relaxed in the armchair and smiled. She clearly hadn't expected this kind of reply. Well, that's good, of course, but I just couldn't handle the stress. I needed to relax. So you think drinking yourself into oblivion is a good way to relax? Whatever works. Try not to relax so much you won't be able to tense up again. She said in a grim voice and returned to the kitchen. We're going to have dinner soon. I didn't want to and couldn't eat at all, but there was no option to refuse the invitation either. ... When were you in school last time? Do you even remember? Well, on Tuesday. Tuesday. She grumbled and put her chopsticks away. That was a signal that I didn't have to force myself anymore. Morning pickles were more than enough for me. Niko-kun, this is no joke. Nobody's laughing. You know, like in that joke, when I wanted to become a comic, everyone was laughing at me, but guess what? Now I am one, nobody's laughing anymore. Himitsu sighed and shook her head. It's just that I feel like I'm not myself these days, but over yesterday and today I've given it some thought, reevaluated my life a bit. Successfully? I don't know yet, it's too early to draw conclusions. Apparently she was still upset because she was talking a lot less than usual. How was your day? As usual, my days always go as usual, Niko-kun. Perhaps I didn't ask enough about Himitsu's life, or more precisely about the part that wasn't related to me. But how could she blame me if it was always as usual for her? Because she fucking loves you. And you still think that you're at the middle of the universe, and this is why you're so fucking idiot. So nothing new at all? Well, Saya-chan told me you were rude to her yesterday. Huh. Guess she didn't notice the industrial timber complex in her own eye. Himitsu smiled. But this time she wasn't swearing about you that much, so you can be proud of yourself. What an achievement. If you would pay more attention to other people... What do I care about your Saya? You should treat others like you want to be treated yourself, and you treat everyone terribly. Well, I treat you okay. That's what you think. That's a very good statement, girl. Himitsu said quietly. What? Nani? Well, sorry. I had to admit, her words stung. I still didn't care what this Saya-chan and the rest like her thought of me. I even knew perfectly when that I acted like a pig to Himitsu. But when she said it herself, I recalled Ed and his applied psychology again. Psychoanalysis is, at its core, the process of structuring thoughts, sorting through them so that each has its own place. Try throwing all your stuff into one big box for years, then try and find something you need in a couple of minutes. So are you guys preparing for the school festival? I tried to change the topic, rather awkwardly. I've already told you. A cafe. I immediately wanted to see Himitsu in a maid uniform, though I didn't say that. I'm sure the food will be delicious. If you're in charge of cooking, then definitely. Other girls can cook too. Definitely not as well as you. Oh my god, more we're going towards the end of the game, the more mistakes we receive. Typos. Typos. What the fuck? You'll try it when you come by. I definitely will. Wow. By the way, let me handle the dishes. Oh, that's not too much effort for you. We'll just have to wait and see. It's interesting how something as ordinary as a kitchen sink can be so dissimilar in each individual house. Literally in its every aspect, the tap of the handless, the location of the drain, the sponges and the racks. The pressure was remarkably strong, but the water didn't splash all over the kitchen, like at my place. Well, you can't underestimate how well thought out modern houses are. Should we go out somewhere? I still felt guilty because of what happened yesterday, and few words weren't going to change that. I needed something more substantive. Is the cat moves or not? Because it seems like the cat is moving on the sofa. Go where? Himitsu asked. She'd already turned on the TV and was watching a soap opera. We could just walk around or go to the cinema. Do you want to watch a movie? I don't know, she said, not expressing much interest. What's the movie about? Some sort of science fiction, I guess. Is it scary? Himitsu didn't like excuse me. Himitsu didn't like horror films. I have to admit, I shared this sentiment, thought for different reasons. Well, we can watch it and see if it is. She turned the TV down and after a few seconds said merrily, You choose. On the one hand, I wanted to watch a new movie, but on the other, I knew what happens with Himitsu in a scene when some sort of paper Mackey monster appears on screen. A simple walk wasn't that dangerous, but of course it wasn't that entertaining either. That's my choice. I could watch the film on my own. Himitsu didn't like science fiction anyway. But actually she did, but whatever. We walked the streets of Tokyo without any particular destination, but somehow found ourselves in the park. Well, it was more like Himitsu had gently guided me there. Why the park? Why the park? I don't know. We haven't been here for a while. Not together, perhaps, but I had been reminiscing here just yesterday. Reminiscing. A rather unpleasant feeling came over me, and I could feel a lump in my throat. Nikko-kun, are you alright? I couldn't even say for sure when Himitsu knew that Catherine and I had spent a lot of time together in this park. The air here is too clean. I felt a bit dizzy. I laughed it off. Look! Himitsu said loudly and approached a tree standing by the footpath. A pretty big squirrel was sitting on a branch. Although it mostly looked similar to its European counterparts, something felt elusively alien about it. Of course, I couldn't blame the poor animal for that. What a cutie! Oh, I have nothing to give you. I checked my pockets and unexpectedly found some chocolate. Here you are. The squirrel climbed, smelled the chocolate, but snorted and climbed back up the tree, hiding in its dense foliage. Apparently it doesn't like chocolate. Still, it's almost like a pet. I guess it's used to being fed. Let's bring some nuts next time. Yeah, that should do for it in order to stock up and enjoy its winter sleep. Squirrels don't hibernate, that's why they stock up. How do you know that? I attend class sometimes. But your cat has stockpiles everywhere, under the sofa, behind the wardrobe, and she seems to hibernate through the whole year. Don't insult my cat! I would have loved to have a cat myself, but that would have been unfair to the poor animal. I wonder if there are other animals here. Maybe bears? Himitsu looked at me with surprise. Or wolves? Wolves? Do you think there are wolves here? She asked, horrified, and stepped closer to me. Oh, tigers. Tigers are also cats after all, they're just bigger. Or... I didn't finish the sentence as I saw Catherine walking toward us. She was looking directly at me and seemed to have been observing us for some time now. Nico-kun? I jerked my head in the direction of the footpath. Himitsu stepped even closer than before. Hi, Katya-chan! She greeted Katya happily as she approached us. Taking a walk? Yes. I said coldly, quiet unexpectedly, even to myself. Weirdly, this was the first time in almost 2 weeks that all three of us were together. See, 2 weeks. But the date behind me, damn, next time I'll move the camera to show you the dates, guys. Because it's freaking ridiculous. The dates, like, they all messed up. The timeline, the author does not following the timeline. He's saying 2 weeks ago, but by his words, it was yesterday. The threesome that he mentioned was like 3 days or maybe yesterday. But he's saying it was like weeks ago. Are you fucking idiot? Catherine seemed disappointed. She clearly hadn't expected to see me here, especially with Himitsu. But then why hadn't she left as soon as she noticed us? I was trying not to think about the reasons that could have brought her here. She was alone, just like me yesterday. How are you doing? I wouldn't call Himitsu's behavior towards Katya hypocritical, but sometimes it surprised me. Not as well as you are, apparently. Did something happen? Nothing in particular and everything at once, you know, it happens. I wondered if our morning conversation had affected her that much. I didn't want to think that Catherine simply didn't enjoy seeing us together. I didn't want to go through that vicious cycle of agonizing introspection again. We saw a squirrel, yay, squirrel. He didn't take the chocolate though. All these childish remarks were quite inappropriate. What are you doing here? Taking a walk as well, can't I? Alone? Katya frowned and flashed me an angry glance. I'm not breaking any local laws, I hope. You must know Japanese legislation better than I. I saw a sign saying you can walk dogs here. I didn't mention humans. Well, it's good that you haven't brought a dog today, then. She smirked, and I couldn't forgive that jab. You know I don't like dogs in general. Who would ever like to have someone shit around them all the time? True enough. Catherine ended that little duel. Alright, we should go then. See you, Katya-chan! All of a sudden, Himitsu stole the initiative. It doesn't make any sense, I swear. The heck was that? For a couple minutes, we walked in silence. You tell me? No, I don't mean you. On the other hand, what was Himitsu supposed to fist fight her? Alright, never mind. And you are... that... Why didn't you argue with her? I didn't! You did! Sunshine. I played my last card. You don't think it's my fault that she turned out to be here, do you? We study at the same school, live in the same city. Damn, that's why we have to... Oh, I'm an idiot. In the cinema, she won't be able to see us. Fuck. Can I go back? No, seriously, it's... There should be a way to come back. There should be a fucking way. Now I realize the mistake. I don't want to go this way. Because, yeah. No. No. Go to movies. We're going to movies. I had no problem with being attentive and spending time together, but again, Catherine morning. Yes. It felt like she came for the sake of decency. Yeah, I refuse to go. Yeah. Of course, I want to avoid Catherine. I want to be with Himitsu. It's the best. Yeah, I'm just like, damn, I slipped over so badly. Like if a mother who sends her child to apologize before the kid that child had stolen a toy from a play garden. Responsibility, servitude, obligation. Catherine was trying hard to show that she was doing all this because she had to rather than wanted to. And that indeed was only raising new questions. Why would she need to prove her innocence so desperately? After all, an uneasy consciousness betrays itself. Nico-kun, we should go to the cinema. Well, if it's in horror movie, it's on you. All the showings of the film I wanted to watch were in the evening, so we had to go for a sob melodrama that almost made me fall asleep. Himitsu, on the contrary, obviously liked it a lot, since from the middle of the film she started sobbing louder and louder, and by finally was crying her eyes out. That's perfect. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. The movie was great. It's a pity real life isn't like that at all. We walked out of the cinema and bought 2 ice cream cones, vanilla for me and strawberry for Himitsu. Why? Brain cancer is a common issue these days. Yeah, especially if you fucking stupid half Russian, half Japanese motherfucker. The protagonist falls in love with a girl, unaware that she's gravely ill and only has a month left to live. Hardly gets more banal than that. You ruin it again. You'd make a bad writer. So a writer needs to lack logic? A writer needs to have empathy. Stop grumbling. Why should I feel sympathetic over some clearly contrived story, especially considering the 30-year-old high schoolers? That's not true. She is only 25. Himitsu frowned and beat her ice cream with near hatred. What's good about your science fiction books? That's where there's a lack of logic. Nothing's real. There's just metaphors. I tried to come up with an excuse, but Himitsu continued. You would definitely like the movie if it was happening on another planet. Or say if there was a breakup instead of disease, she would break up with him and fly to another end of the galaxy while he would freeze himself to wait for her. The conversation was getting dangerous. That's a wonderful story, you should write it down. However, laughing it off didn't work. I haven't come up with an ending yet. Himitsu responded angrily and bit off a huge chunk of ice cream again. This time I didn't go well. Ouch! She rolled her eyes and started jumping in place. Trying to freeze yourself like in your novel? I asked her sympathetically and took the cone out of her hands. It's always like that with you. Himitsu grumbled, and having come to her senses, walked quickly onwards. How did she always manage to guess what I was thinking about so accurately? I wasn't enjoying these allusions to Catherine at all. If Himitsu were to continue with this train of thought, she would come to absolutely absurd conclusions, get dramatic, find culprits, and pass judgment on them. And all of that would happen based on emotions and feelings alone, with no consideration given to reality. Maybe it was very womanlike, maybe it was very childish, but I had what I had, and I had to live with it somehow. Wow. 4 times the word had pop out in one sentence. I just followed Himitsu, and 10 minutes we arrived at the park. Wait, again? However, the fresh air did mean... There you go, What would Catherine if she saw us? Would she be jealous? Sorry, I got so drunk yesterday. Oh, well. Oh, it's different. Now they still walk to the park. Women make the right conclusions. But the part about me making a bad writer was upsetting. I didn't mean it. I'll give you a sarcasm placard. To be honest, subtle humor wasn't Himitsu's forte. You keep joking, Nico-kun, but time flies by. Flies where? There, soon we'll need to enroll in college. Of course, she knew that I wasn't going to continue studying, but continued to ignore the fact, and if she had decided everything for me already. We've discussed this so many times already. Yes, and nothing changes. I'll need to live on something after school. My parents' money isn't endless, you know. You can always find a part-time job or... She grew embarrassed and stopped walking. In the life philosophy of Himitsu, an idea was a basic unit of organization. It couldn't be divided into parts and didn't obey the laws of the macro world. One has to get university education was an idea, while the hows and whys were completely irrelevant. Easy for you to say. I snapped at her, recalling that Catherine and I had more or less the same conversation in more or less the same place. Maybe I'd like to expect, well, I don't know, still need to live the moment, and right now I'm having some difficulties with that too. Nico-kun. Himitsu lowered her head, gripped my head tighter. I started to feel a bit uncomfortable. We're just trying so hard to pretend nothing has changed. I guess I was the one mostly responsible for that. I was trying too hard not to involve Himitsu in my problems. Never mind, forget it. Nico-kun. What? I snapped. You're not helping at all. Only limiting like an old woman. An old couple was looking at us with clear interest, even a little unceremoniously, perhaps because we were speaking Russian. Oh, so they were speaking Russian to each other all the time. Wow. What are you staring at? I barked at them in Japanese. The oldies immediately started looking around the park fearfully, as if searching for a policeman. Nico-kun, have you gone completely mad? Himitsu hissed at me, quickly bowed, apologized, and dragged me away. We walked out into the city, where I was immediately received my deserved reprimand. You can't behave like that. I don't even have the words. All right, sorry, baby. I really did feel guilty. However, guilty to Himitsu rather than a couple of old strangers. It's all because of your drinking. You completely lost yourself. I had zero desire to listen to this, but after what I've done, interrupting her wasn't an option. Let's go home, I said, avoiding her eyes. We spent almost the entire walk back in silence. I was thinking what I wouldn't felt if Himitsu hadn't been around at that moment. Maybe nothing. Maybe I would have also told them to fuck off. When we arrived, I stopped and said, "Alright, I will see you tomorrow then." "Yeah, bye." Himitsu replied briefly and left. Left too quickly, as if she were upset with me. Apparently I wasn't going to get dinner tonight. However, that seemed to be the least of my problems. I don't know what choice was right, I'm sorry. For a normal person it would have been evening already, but I only woken up on the clock, so I was still full of energy. My hangover had long retreated, allowing me to come to my senses and start thinking continuously. And Catherine was doing pretty much everything she could to kill my love for her. She was quite successful at it, I had to say. On the other hand, you can't instantly destroy what took years to emerge and grow stronger. A phone rang in the hall. It sounded all somehow phlegmatic. "Hello." Hi Nick, are you busy?" Michael's voice sounded calm and even as always, even pacifying to a degree. "No, I just came back, been walking around with Himitsu." "Alright, I have something to talk about." "Aye. You got expelled." "Can't we discuss it over the phone? Why the secrecy?" "No." He answered briefly and I started to worry. Secrecy meant a lot to me now. "I assume it can't wait till tomorrow." "No." "I see. When, where?" "In the city center, in 1 hour." "Okay, see ya." I hung up and let out a sigh. I just come back and only managed to take my shoes off. Oh boy. Michael was punctual and appeared on time. Thought I wasn't late either. At first I wanted to warn Himitsu, but then I figured that since I wasn't meeting with Catherine, Ichinose, or anyone else would make her concerned, I had nothing to worry about. As for Michael, whatever the subject of the discussion would be, there was no reason to expect anything dangerous from him. "Well, hi, why the urgency?" "Let's find somewhere quiet first." "You sound like a real spy today." Michael didn't react to my joke, however, which was to be expected, but I started to feel even more off. Yeah, weird English. Oh, finally, guys, good job. I'm so proud. This is why the Pride of Month Pride exists. You know, to prove that there's people like Michael, there's people like Nico-kun, like keyboard player, like they all love each other. Like Ed, he loves his wife, but secretly he has some passion to Nico. He led me to the park. Wasn't I coming here a little much these days? So, drop the suspense. We sat on a bench far from the main entrance. "Do you remember our conversation on Monday? About my father's work at Kobayashi Corporation?" "I do. Why?" "After all, I hadn't told him anything specific." "Well, I couldn't get out of my head, so I talked to my father. And?" "We may have to leave Tokyo or even Japan altogether." He sighed and frowned, which for Michael could be described as an emotional storm. "Something is happening, Nick, something serious, and I think you might be in danger." "Come on, who am I to?" "And this danger might be coming from Kobayashi Corporation. You've asked about them yourself." I couldn't play the fool around Michael, he was too astute for that. So I stopped smiling idiotically and looked away, staring at the dark silhouettes of the trees and the pond. "What exactly do you know?" "Nothing in particular, but my father was worried, and that doesn't happen often." "Well, yeah, like father, like son. You know, if there was something, it's fine now. If I were to believe Catherine, if I were you, I wouldn't just neglect." "I'm telling you, it's alright." I ground my teeth but continued in lower voice. "Thank you for caring." The spirit of contradiction seemed to be strong in me. After all this madness I'd experienced in the last couple of weeks, I finally managed to fix my relationship with Himitsu, handle the situation with Catherine to some extent, and nobody was fooling me anymore, at least not openly. And now I was going to start all over again? And who was informing about this? Michael? It felt as if a Christmas deer had brought me some news on its horns. Well, I just wanted to warn you, that's all I can do. Are you sure you're going to leave? I don't know yet. When will you know then? I can't say that either. Just sounds like riddles and assumptions, not enough to panic over, don't you think? Who's panicking? Due diligence never hurt anyone. What do you mean by due diligence? What should I do to be diligent? Buy a gun? I smirked. You can hardly do that here, but if we were in the USA... I'd say that it might be a good idea. Is it really that bad? Jokes like this weren't in Michael's characters and he seemed serious. I hope not. Either way, I couldn't tell him about my situation, not because he would tell his father, but because the fewer people were involved, the better. Okay, don't take it so seriously. Who are we? Just students. We irrelevant. Maybe you're right. Michael responded after some time and stood up. It's late. Will you come to school tomorrow? I will. Dot. On my way back, I was constantly looking around and even chose a longer road to confuse my potential stalkers. However, it seemed like they were either not following me or following me too well. Of course, I couldn't get Michael's words out of my head, but it felt as if I'd been sedated. My own problems seemed distant, as if they belonged to a total stranger. Sometimes it can be almost impossible to break out of negative perception of things and see the good aspects and positive changes in life. Or sometimes the overwhelming wave of positivity doesn't let you think straight and see that things aren't all so rosy and that the enemy literally hides around the corner. Dot. I was walking down the streets of the Japanese capital and breathing rich autumn air. Every region has its own outstanding smell. For summer, it's green grass, blossoming flowers, gentle sea breeze, soil, and asphalt heated by the sun. But autumn brings along freshness and humidity of frequent rains, dampness of soiled leaves, the aroma of ripe apples, and rich scent of fermented plums. To me, autumn was the crowning achievement of creation, the final point and pinnacle of this cycle. For a couple weeks yet, we could enjoy soft, warm days and fresh, invigorating evenings, the ripple of colors of the withering nature and the ripe, juicy fruits. And then the arrow of life soars over midnight to begin a new ascent to the summit through the long winter night. Dot. My big empty house greeted me with darkness. I had already grown a bit unfamiliar with and that silence. Somewhere deep inside I was hoping that Himitsu would come after all, or at least would make me dinner, or even just leave a note. However, I wasn't particularly upset about that. After all, they had gone pretty well. Wait, what? Neglecting the matter of dinner and feeling almost happy, I went to bed and quickly fell asleep. Like, prick! Okay, the next day, right? And we're gonna stop here. Yeah, we're gonna stop here. Because fuck it, it's just like, oh my god, this game is endless. Okay, it's 18. Look. It's 1809. 1987. Yeah. Okay, the early bird catches the worm. Fuck yeah. Oh my god, guys. Thank you very much for watching until the very end. Please join the channel, subscribe on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. In the description will be playlist with this game. Thank you very much and we'll see you next episode.